I'm in the middle of a big project trying to control some invasive species here at the transition between our hayfield and the woods. This has been bad for a while and getting steadily worse. And I finally got up the motivation to begin tackling this because these invasive plants are actually propagating further and further into the woodlands. And that's just not a good thing. So I'm tackling it from this side. Once our forest management plan is done, that's going to list recommendations for tackling it from the woods moving out to this edge. And so that'll be coming kind of in the future years. I'm just focusing along this stone wall for now. So I'll show you where I'm at so far and what I'm getting into today. So I started here at this end, and you can see the dying leaves there. This is a combination of spray plus cutting. So I began down here. There was no access behind the wall, and I actually started by cutting in some access behind the wall and getting the tractor in there down that way, and then was able to start kind of cutting along the wall as well. So here's the punch in. I've been a little conservative at cutting. Most likely these pine trees here, those have got to go, but I'm taking my time about it. I'm not trying to off everything all at once. So this has all been opened up. A lot of this, once I took out a couple of big things, was just able to be cut with the brush hog. Getting up into here is where it started to get to more of a jungle. There was a bunch of burning bush and stuff over here, a lot of oriental bittersweet up all these trees. So I took down a pine, and there were a couple more pines up there. Again, I've been doing this kind of methodically, making sure I can get the tractor up through here. There's still a bunch. You can see some bittersweet vines coming down here, and a lot of this is still kind of attached. I needed to die back. Continuing on here, this is kind of where my cutting needs to proceed now. This tree here, I'm pretty sure is an American elm. So that one I gotta preserve. The next one, beech, that's gone. And this little guy may also go. As these stumps rot, the idea is to have the tractor lane right here so that I have access to the back of this wall to keep this cleaned out. There was big autumn olive and stuff there and here. So here's this beech. As I turn this way, you can see no cutting has taken place up ahead here. That pine's gonna go. That, I believe, is another elm right there. So that's gonna be preserved. And then there's a bunch of birch kind of along this side. I have run the tractor through here, but I want to get these invasives under control in here. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of boulders in here, so I won't be able to drive through there. I'm going to have to kind of work through there with the saw. I've already cut some along here, so the first plan of attack is going to be to hop on the tractor, push the forks into the bushes, and just see what I can lift up and pull out that way. Otherwise, I'm going to have to hand drag some of that away. Now, if this still looks like a mess, it's nothing compared to how it was. You can actually see the stone wall now. All of this used to look like this. Thick brush way over the wall. I've sprayed this foliage and it's dying back a little, but this was all thick, thick, thick like this everywhere with various invasive species. And so this is what I've been battling the whole way across. I have isolated this oak to preserve that. And then this green top right here, pretty sure that's a walnut. So I'm gonna preserve that as well. But otherwise, the rest of this jungle is just gotta go. So we'll push the forks into here and see what we can lift up. A lot of this is cut free, but I don't know how much is going to come out with just a lift of the forks. Maybe none. Looking like none's going to come with me. Try once more into this. Some of that's loose. That bittersweet's really hanging on. I may not get any of this out into the field, or maybe we'll get some. Yep, we're getting some. Well, now that we got some of this that's cut out, at least out into the field, I'm gonna get set up and start running the saw, take down that beech, that pine, start cutting what's left kind of in here behind me along the wall. You kind of got to iterate on it, cut, remove, cut what you missed. So I'm gonna cut until I'm feeling hot and tired and switch back over to the tractor. And if I open up any places behind the wall that I can then access with the brush hog, I'll hit those. So that's kind of the way I've been going about this. Cut for a while, open up avenues, attack with the brush hog, drag things away, repeat. And just in case anyone's thinking, oh, that's not so bad, this is multiflora rose. And these thorns, they're vicious. They get hooked in to your clothes, to everything, and they hang on like crazy. And when they get your skin, boy, does that hurt. And I just cut this. So you just imagine you get your body down in there and you get snagged all over the place by those thorns. So that's what I'm dealing with here. I'm kind of standing in a pit right here, surrounded by rocks. You can see the saw sitting on one big boulder behind me, and the stone wall is right here. And there's some other boulders kind of back there. So kind of a pen here. And in terms of moving forward into that, I think I'm gonna go from the other end just because I don't really see a good way to walk into this cutting. But I think if I go from the other side and kind of work in, that'll work a little bit better. So I actually think if I cut that tree and some of this brush out of the way here, I actually have a shot at getting the brush hog back into there. That boulder is right over through there. I don't want to take all of these birch trees out. I do want to take several. So I think I'll kind of cut on this side and see where that gets me. Well, it's time for me to quit cutting because I'm getting hot and tired. Not everything here is invasive. So the grapevines right here, they're native grape. They're fine, but the problem is you've got that mixed with burning bush, mixed with Japanese barberry, mixed with oriental bittersweet. And unfortunately, I just can't save the good and get rid of the bad. So at least in here, the wall is right there. The walnut tree is right over there and the oak right over there. So we're pretty much up to this end. I think what's going to happen in this is I'll push this back a little bit, but that's burn pile right there. And what's left here is I got to clean up all this shrubbery stuff around this big rock. And then I think things are going to look a lot better. Here's the field side of where I just was. There's the big rock. That's the remaining bush. And that's the area that I just cut out right there, looking up to the oak and that walnut right here. So I got to get all of that brush cut away off the wall, that out of there, tidy this up some more, and then most of the wall will be exposed. I refrained from cutting this piece of the beech up into firewood length pieces. I just wanted to show how insidious this oriental bittersweet is. You can see the vine comes up and it was wrapping this trunk, and there it is, and here it is on the next wrap, and it's actually into, or the beech is growing around it. So these things really do impact the ability of trees to grow and to grow into anything of any sort of quality. The other aspect of this is as this vine continues to grow up, it branches out and it will create vines and can jump from one tree to another and tie the trees together. I deal with that with the tops of a lot of these. The vine goes up one, holds the tree into another, and then you're stuck either cutting both, or you get into a dangerous situation where one wants to pull the other over or it doesn't want to fall. So this stuff is nasty. I am no fan of it at all, and it's invasive. I'm going to continue tackling the invasives behind me throughout the rest of the summer. And ideally, by the time we hit fall, I will have this pretty much under control, such that over the winter I can burn these piles. I've got one at this end and one at the other end, and really kind of clean this out. And then next year, it'll all be about control. And I'm hoping that I can do that just with the occasional herbicide spray or some pulling or pruning with loppers to keep these things under control.